And we're back. You are listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio Network. Folks, I am joined here by the president of Quist Valuation, Shina Culberson. And before we kick off this next session, I'd like to remind everyone that you can always download the first chapter of my book, Exitology, at exitologybook.com, and you will get the first chapter where we talk about the difference between your mindset. Are you a gold miner or a gold miller? And with that, Shina, welcome back to the show. We are talking to the gold millers of the world, of course, here today. And what does that mean? That means let's not work harder, let's work smarter, and let's use the world around us and what reality is for our own business goals, right? And to create value for everybody that we touch. And so I want to revisit what we were just speaking about in the last section for a moment here, which was, we're talking about the idea of valuation. It's not an event, which is a common misconception out there. People are used to, hey, somebody gets divorced, I need a valuation, or I'm going to sell the business pretty soon, I need a valuation, or I'm going to whatever. But no, it's actually a practice or a process. And so first, I'd like to invite our listeners to think of getting a valuation as part of your regular check-in and as part of your strategic planning process, which implies cycle, right? And even more, why? And I think for us, Shina, we're both certified exit planning advisors, and we know all of the stats, and just rattle off a bunch of them, right? 80% of a privately held business owner's wealth is typically trapped in their business, and if they don't decentralize themselves and de-risk that business and essentially create transferable value, it will remain there forever. 40 people are in a room, come back 2 years later, one of them's happy with how they went on exiting their business, and so on and so forth. And we could cite stats all day long, but I'd like you to maybe share from your perspective, from the numbers perspective, what is transferable value and why does it matter? And just what do you see out there with the folks that you're consulting with?
Yeah, so from my perspective, transferable value is that part of your business, the soft assets, right? The things that are hard to measure, the value of your customer base, mm-hmm. the value of your employees, the tenure of them, their expertise, the value of your organization, like how do you run your systems and processes? What's your culture like? What's the form of communication? Yeah. Those are soft factors within your business that are not easily quantifiable, and you can't just point to like a revenue number or profitability number and say, oh, that's the value of my employee base, right?
Right.
So creating transferable value to me means creating a value around those, what I call intangible assets, soft values, yeah. and someone will pay you for it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the hard assets in your business. It's those softer assets that are harder to value.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, we've all seen these businesses that did great for the business owner for 40 years, right? And at the end of the day, though, what the business is really two chucks in a truck, right? It's a guy that can get into certain places and do a deal and do that deal every year, and he can run his truck through the business, and at the end of the day, maybe his customer list is worth something. Right? And it's like and then it's like, yeah, but I've been making millions of dollars the last 5 years or whatever. And it's like, you have, but there's nothing for anybody to buy, right?
Right.
And I would contrast that with what you're talking about. Right, like customer capital, for instance. Let's go super basic. If you're selling to someone, and actually your software asks this question, right? It asks people, do you have predictable revenue on your customer base? And then it goes a level deeper and it says, okay, if so, is it contractual? So and that's because a lot of folks, and we're working with a customer like this right now, and they're doing great. We took them from 12 to 20 million in a single year. We can show them with the Quist Spotlight tool how that impacts their bottom line as far as not just the bottom line, but the transferable value metric and all these other things. But even them, we're looking at their customer capital and saying, your best situation is, yeah, you get you're doing a good job, so you can probably count on that next year. And to them, that was a mind-blowing moment, because they're like, oh, that means that we just have to keep doing a good job, but like actually somebody couldn't come in, they would discount our company because we can't prove that that's going to be cash flow next year. And so I'm using that as just one of, I'm sure, a million examples that you see all the time, right? And I think it's important for people to be thinking about that, right? You go, what does your customer capital look like? Well, there's a way to put a number on that and actually, put that stake in the ground. And I think that's really what you're driving at, right? There's structural capital. Like, how is this business built? And, can the owner go on vacation for 2 weeks and shut off the phone, right?
Right.
Stuff like that. So I'd be curious, do you have any businesses, if we use that example, you have a client who is a perfect case study for at least part of the method, which is I get a valuation every year. And they've bought into the idea that it's a process, but it sounds like they were also kind of, I don't want to say failing, but yeah, failing, right? Failing to use the tools that you were giving them, right? Failing to use it as part of their integrated growth plan. Failing to measure against that and use it the way that they could. So if you had a perfect world and you were able to sort of wave your magic wand and take that Fort Collins company and have them use the information the way that you wanted them to, how would you do that?
Oh, that's a great question. So the way that I would suggest a client use it is to have the annual assessment.
Okay.
Consider 3 to 5 actions that the company could set as a goal for themselves over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
And then create some goals and around those priorities.
Yep.
And then execute on them. And then check back in. You could do that with our tool. Check back in and say, okay, we had a goal, for example, maybe we had a goal of making sure that our customer base was not dependent on a single account manager.
Yeah.
That's the business owner. That's the problem, right?
Right.
That client really loves the business owner because that business owner is passionate about their business.
Right.
But that client is dependent on the business owner to be involved, actively involved.
Yep.
And so the business owner might say, gosh, I really would like to make sure that my client base isn't so dependent on me. So I need to start introducing that client to the other members of the company.
Yep.
Who's their support person? Who can they call other than me?
Yep.
How can we make those customers feel comfortable with other people that they are going to execute and answer their questions in a timely basis? Mm-hmm. The call does not have to come to me.
Right.
So those are certain things that the company can work with, and then they can measure and say, okay, yeah, we've got a new kind of sales assistant, or we got a new client support person.
Yep.
Now they've been in the company. This is their roles. They're reaching out. They're touching base. That you're diminishing that customer's dependency on that right. business owner, and that in of itself is creating value. So that's how I would recommend clients take those handful of high driving value recommendations, yep. which our tool provides. It will actually tell you, we believe this one's worth X amount of dollars and this one's worth Y amount of dollars,
yep.
1,500,000, whatever. Build a plan around that, and then come back and check in periodically. It doesn't need to be every quarter, maybe once every 6 months.
Yep.
But it's, again, just a measurement tool. How are we making incremental value increases in the business?
Yeah.
So that we're not surprised at the end of the year with whether we're executing or not.
Totally. So I love it so the position that we often have with companies is initially as their growth consultant, and then we turn into their maximize their value consultant, and then we turn into their let's unlock your value and help you exit consultant, right? And we take them through this 1, 2, 3 journey basically. And what I love about having access to these types of tools, and you really touched on this. We will go in and we'll do an annual retreat with our clients and take them through a power day, which basically looks like locking them in a room until they're ready to scream until we have those 5 initiatives, right? But the important thing that your tool and tools like yours do is to actually quantify that, because what happens naturally in my experience when you're taking a company through that is oftentimes, first of all, there's a reason why you hire outside people to do that. It's because you have shop blindness, right? You're too close to the company, just all of those things. But then secondly, a lot of times there's sort of this double-edged sword of it's been so long since you felt creative in the business over here, which unlocks all sorts of ideas. And then also now we're a little freaked out because we don't know what to do next. And what's great about having a tool that says, oh, let's put dollar signs against this, because if I can now sort, for instance, let's say we come up with 20 ideas, and I say, well, the tool is showing me that these are the 3 highest dollar things here that can be done in the next 6 months. Guess where our priorities lie? And that's a very powerful thing to have in your back pocket as a growth consultant.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a business owner too,
Yep.
and there's only so much time in each day, in each week, in any given year.
Yep.
So we all have to set priorities and make some, we might move forward on one initiative, but we're going to have to give up a different initiative. So understanding how to prioritize and have that dollar figure, so you're getting the best kind of bang for your buck, meaning even time and resources.
Yeah,
really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, I've seen on our side processes that used to be a 2-day event collapse into 1 day, which so the proof is in the pudding. So in this next section, Shina, we'll start to talk a little bit around how to put the rubber, where the rubber meets the road a little bit. So you can check out Shina and her company, Quist Valuation, at www.quistvaluation.com. Correct. Okay. And we'll see you here in 2 minutes. You've been listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio Network.